he shall plant the tabernacles of his palace between the seas in the glorious holy mountain. Yet he shall come to his end, and none shall help him. And at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince which standeth for the children of thy people. And there shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time. And at that time thy people shall be delivered, every one that shall be found written in the book.
When the two verses are read together, we see that a prophetic event precedes the time of trouble. Many students of Bible prophecy, religious writers and leaders over 100 years ago, believed and understood the answer of Daniel 11:45 as something called the Eastern Question. The Eastern Question was a term coined by political and newspaper reporting of the 1800s. It was the question of how and when would the once great Ottoman Empire finally collapse. The Turkish dynasty of the Ottoman Empire had been in decline for many years, but had been prevented from collapsing by the help of other nations. History and Bible prophecy agree. If a careful study of the last 6 verses of Daniel chapter 11 is conducted, Turkey is the power that comes to its end in verse 45. Because of a geographical specification regarding the power exhibited in Daniel 11:40-45, answering the Eastern Question in the light of Bible prophecy concludes that at some point in time, the Turk will come to his end at Jerusalem. That event will bring on the time of trouble. The Eastern Question, the belief that the Turk in Bible prophecy would come to his end at Jerusalem, fell out of favor after the end of World War I and was all but forgotten. The Turkish Ottoman Empire had allied itself with Germany during the war. The Germans lost the war in Europe, but the Turks held out in the Middle East for 4 more years, until 1923, when peace terms were reached and a treaty was signed. It was the Treaty of Lausanne, dated July 24, 1923. With the signing of the treaty, Turkey was transformed from an Ottoman Islamic Caliphate to the Republic of Turkey. The change so transformed Turkey that it seemed as though it could never fulfill the prophecy of going to set up a form of government at Jerusalem and then come to its end there. There's also the problem of the new nation of Israel that now controls Jerusalem. But now, things have changed.
On April 16th, the Turkish people went to the polls to show their support for a landmark constitutional referendum. And by Turkish people, I mean barely more than half the Turkish people. And by constitutional referendum, I mean resurrection of the Ottoman Empire. Yes, a minute majority of Turks have bestowed sultan-like powers to Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. He now has the power, nay, the right, to issue decrees, declare emergency rule, draw up budgets, to appoint ministers and top state officials, to dissolve the parliament, and in general overhaul the entire governance system into an executive presidency model that abolishes the office of prime minister. It also allows Erdogan to stay in the presidency until 2029, aka for life. Still, you might be thinking that this is just a consolidation of power, typical of any secular dictator. The fact is that this is something else entirely.
And the statements coming out of Turkey should be very concerning to Americans. Erdogan is saying 1.5 billion Muslims are waiting for the Turkish government to rise.
İşte bunun için Kudüs kırmızı çizgimizdir diyoruz. Binlerce yıldır olduğu gibi bugün de dünya barışının anahtarı Kudüs'tür. Barış çınarı Kudüs'te yıkılırsa bunun altında tüm dünya kalır. Kudüs'ü tümüyle İsrail'in kanlı pençelerine terk etmek...
Meet Albert Pike, one of the most prolific Satanists in history. Albert claimed to have direct communication with Satan, claiming that Satan would even give him visions. Albert Pike received a vision, which he described in a letter dated August 15, 1871. This letter graphically outlined plans for 3 world wars that were seen as necessary to bring about the One World Order.
The First World War must be brought about in order to permit the Illuminati to overthrow the power of the Tsars in Russia and of making that country a fortress of atheistic communism. The divergences caused by the Agentur, agents of the Illuminati between the British and Germanic empires will be used to foment this war. At the end of the war, communism will be built and used in order to destroy the other governments and in order to weaken the religions. The Second World War must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences between the fascists and the political Zionists. This war must be brought about so that Nazism is destroyed and that the political Zionism be strong enough to institute a sovereign state of Israel in Palestine. During the Second World War, international communism must become strong enough in order to balance Christendom, which would be then restrained and held in check until the time when we would need it for the final social cataclysm. The Third World War must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences caused by the agentur of the Illuminati between the political Zionists and the leaders of Islamic world. The war must be conducted in such a way that Islam, the Muslim Arabic world, and political Zionism, the State of Israel, mutually destroy each other. Meanwhile, the other nations, once more divided on this issue, will be constrained to fight to the point of complete physical, moral, spiritual, and economical exhaustion. We shall unleash the nihilists and the atheists, and we shall provoke a formidable social cataclysm, which in all its horror will show clearly to the nations the effect of absolute atheism, origin of savagery, and of the most bloody turmoil. Then everywhere, the citizens, obliged to defend themselves against the world minority of revolutionaries, will exterminate those destroyers of civilization and the multitude, disillusioned with Christianity, whose deistic spirits will from that moment be without compass or direction, anxious for an ideal, but without knowing where to render its adoration, will receive the true light through the universal manifestation of the pure doctrine of Lucifer, brought finally out in the public view. This manifestation will result from the general reactionary movement which will follow the destruction of Christianity and atheism, both conquered and exterminated at the same time.
Notice how the first two world wars are spot on? What if the Third World War is as well? I want to make clear that this isn't biblical prophecy, but Satan with all his pride likes to let us know what his plans are. He can't help himself. What is very interesting is Albert says both Islam and Israel will both mutually destroy each other. The prophecy we are dealing with is Daniel chapter 11 verse 45. This prophecy is talking about the King of the North. The King of the North is the literal geographic northern regions above Jerusalem in a physical application. The King of the North in modern context would then be Turkey. This prophecy is the famous Eastern Question, as seen earlier in this video. If Israel and the Islamic world, which is represented by Turkey, destroy each other, then that would fulfill the King of the North coming to an end in Daniel 11 verse 45. This would cause Michael, Jesus, to stand up, and his return would be imminent, as shown in the next verse, Daniel 12 verse 1.
He does only what he sees his Father doing. What the Father does, the Son also does. For the Father loves the Son.
The next thing to happen after the King of the North comes to an end prophetically would be the cry for peace and safety. The world will be desperate for peace and safety after such a devastating Third World War. For when they shall say, peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape. 1 Thessalonians 5 verse 3. At that same time of the cry for peace and safety, the mark of the beast will be introduced and implemented, and gladly accepted by the masses all around the world. Satan will unveil himself as the false Christ, and will appear as if he is an angel of light. This will be the greatest deception in the history of the world. This will cause everyone to have to make a decision whether they worship the beast and his image and his laws, or worship the one true God, the Father and his only begotten Son Jesus Christ, and their laws. Only those who diligently study Scripture will make the right decision and not be deceived. Once the last person on earth has made their decision, then sudden destruction will come upon the earth when Jesus stands up, and the 7 last plagues will be poured out on the world. Jesus Christ will return at the 7th last plague to raise his people to meet him in the air, and he will take them to heaven once and for all. Turkey stands as a national guidepost to the world, that men may know what is going on in the sanctuary above. God's eye is upon his people, and he never leaves himself without a witness in the world. No man knows when Turkey will take its departure from Europe, but when that move is made, Earth's history will be short. Then it will be said, he that is unjust, let him be unjust still, and he that is righteous, let him be righteous still. Today is the day of preparation, While the world watches Turkey, let the servant of God watch the movements of his great high priest, whose ministry for sin is almost over.